How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Monitor Comics, the channel where we create comics and manga. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, then I hope you can check out some of my other videos after you're finished watching this one. We've already covered a ton of cool comic making tutorials, including how to script your comic, how to create storyboards for your manga, and how to create interesting protagonist characters. In today's video, we'll be discussing how to come up with a character name for all of the characters in your comics, manga, and webtoon projects. Thank you Man and Shababy France for the video suggestion. Make sure you watch this video in its entirety because we'll be going over all of the elements that make a character's name memorable. But first, let's hear a word from today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators. With Skillshare, you can explore new skills, deepen your creative passion, and get lost in creativity. Right now, I'm taking a class called Character Illustration, drawing faces, figures, and clothes by the comic artist Gabriel Piccolo. As a published Saturday AM comic artist, knowing how to design expressive characters is super important. This class has taught me the fundamentals of creating professional character illustrations. I learned about the 4 core character expressions and how to convey extreme emotions through character art. With the Skillshare Premium membership, you'll gain unlimited access to thousands of video lessons and class projects. Classes can range from illustration, animation, creative writing, freelancing, and much more. There are even some super cool comic and manga making tutorials that I'll definitely be checking out. Skillshare is an amazing place to fuel your curiosity. The best part is Skillshare has classes that fit any schedule and any skill level. In fact, most of the classes are under 60 minutes. Skillshare is curated specifically for learning, which means that there are no ads and they will always be launching new premium classes. Skillshare also has a very strong creative community that you can tap into for support, encouragement, and inspiration at any time. But wait, there's more because I have a special offer for you. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a free 1-month trial of premium membership, so you can explore your creativity. Do something today that you couldn't do yesterday with short classes designed for real life. Thank you again, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video and continuing to help the creative community. And now, let's get back to the video. Before we jump into today's 10 tips, I want to go over the importance of character names. Names act as an identifier. They are a part of a character's identity and sometimes reflect their personality. Naming your character helps your reader build up a mental image of who your character is. Coming up with a great name for your character is honestly one of the hardest tasks you will have to complete as a storyteller. The weight of that responsibility can often paralyze writers. Obviously, you don't want to do wrong by your character by giving them an ordinary pedestrian name. You also don't want to confuse your reader by giving your character names that are too creative, distracting, or hard to pronounce. The wrong name for your character could take your reader out of the story and ruin their immersion. Common pedestrian names also run into the issue of being easily forgotten. Your reader may have to backtrack to remember who is who in your story. Sometimes the perfect character name will pop into your head before you even start building your character's identity. Other times you might fully flesh out your character's identity, but the perfect name continues to elude you. Tip number 1. Embracing the ordinary. There are many Tom, Dick, and Harrys in the world. This is exactly why your story may need one. Your name choices should be authentic to the types of characters who live within the world you have created. Some stories heavily based on reality benefit from characters with ordinary pedestrian names. Think of iconic characters like James Howlett, Mary Jane, and Bruce Wayne. Each of these characters have pedestrian first names. Their surnames or last names carry most of the verbal impact. While it can be tempting to give your character a flashy name like Lelouch v Britannia, Monkey D. Luffy, and Violet Evergarden, sometimes a simple character name can better fit the world of your story. Tip number 2. Consider the time period. It is important to remember that names are a reflection of the times. Names that are common and popular right now are not the same as names that were popular in the past. Names often go in and out of fashion. Every year, a data list of the most popular baby names is released to the public. For example, using the official data set on the United States government Social Security website, I discovered that the 5 most popular names for girls in the 1930s were Mary, Betty, Dorothy, Helen, and Margaret. When I changed the year to 2005, we can see that the 5 most common names given to female babies were Emily, Emma, Madison, Abigail, and Olivia. It is also important to note that in different cultures, some names that you think are masculine may be feminine or vice versa. Your character's name should fit the societal norms of when they were born. It is fine to have 1 or 2 characters with unusual names, but you shouldn't have distracting character names for no good justifiable reason. Tip number 3. Parents' logic. Unless you change your name later in life, the name you currently have is usually given to you by your parents or a caregiver. Characters don't name themselves, their parents do. With few exceptions, your character's parents will be conventional people who follow the rules and societal trends of the time period and world that they inhabit. Sometimes a family name is passed down onto the child. There is always a logic behind your character's name choice that is either explained or easily understood by the reader. Think of a character like Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto's parents, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, bestowed the surname Uzumaki onto him so his identity as the 4th Hokage's son would be hidden. Minato allowed his mentor Jiraiya to name Naruto. The name Naruto came from the term Narutomaki, a topping found in Jiraiya's favorite ramen. Naruto was also a name Jiraiya came up with for a character in his novel. Tip number 4. Genre influence. Character names must make sense within the context of your story's genre. A genre can be defined as a category of literature characterized by similarities in form, style, or subject matter. Some genres you may have heard of include drama, fantasy, horror, comedy, mystery, and science fiction. Think about it, character names in a story set during the Victorian era are not going to be the same as character names found in a story set on a colonized Mars. If your story is set in a future that no one knows, you have the freedom to predict trends and come up with more unique names for your characters. Tip number 5. Name consistency. In real life, people may associate more than one name with their identity. Think of nicknames, pet names, aliases, and official titles. When you are writing a story, it's best to limit your character to a single name if possible. A character who is called John one minute, Jonathan the next, and Jojo every now and then is bound to confuse your reader. There are exceptions to every rule. Certain situations may call for your character to be called by another name. For example, in a work setting, your character may be called Mr. or Mrs. followed by their last name. In cases like that, it is justifiable to use multiple names to refer to one character. Try to use multiple names sparingly and avoid doing it with more than one character. The last thing you want is a reader who is unable to keep track of who is who in your comic, manga, or webtoon project. Tip number 6. Dissimilar names. It doesn't matter if your story only has 2 characters or 200 characters. Each character should be given a uniquely different sounding name. What this means is you should not have a character named Laurie if you already have a character named Lauren. You should not have a character named Aiden if you already have a character named Adam. Similar names with similar lengths can sometimes cause confusion for quick readers who gloss over names after reading them a few times. A general rule of thumb is to avoid 2 or more characters having names that begin with the same letter, sound similar, or are shaped similarly. An exception to this rule can be seen in Tolkien's novel The Hobbit. In this story, it is a cultural tradition for the dwarves and elves to share similar sounding names with their relatives. An example of this are the brothers Nori, Dori, and Ori. You should try your best to avoid giving more than one character the same exact name. This can easily lead to confusion. Tip number 7. Avoid name associations. While it may be tempting to name the character in your comic, manga, or webtoon project after one of your favorite characters or public figures, you should avoid it at all costs. More specifically, you should avoid choosing names that have become famous in pop culture or infamous throughout history. The only exception to this rule is if you are writing a story that logically justifies why your character's name is associated with that well-known person or character. An example of this can be found in the series Arya the Scarlet Ammo. The protagonist is named Arya Holmes Kanzaki. She is the descendant of the famous detective Sherlock Holmes. More specifically, she is Sherlock Holmes IV. In the same series, the character Rico Mean Lupin IV is the descendant of the infamous thief Lupin III. Another exception to this rule is if the story you are writing literally involves a historical figure or pre-existing character. An example of this can be seen in the Death Note one-shot, where former United States President Donald Trump plays a vital role in the plot of the story. The manga adaptation of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet also features characters that share the same exact name as the iconic characters they were based on. Tip number 8. Easy pronunciation. The characters in your comic, manga, and webtoon project should have easy to pronounce names. Nothing takes you out of a story quicker than being unable to pronounce or identify a word in a sentence. Keep in mind that just because you are able to easily pronounce a name, a general audience may have a hard time interpreting it. To this day, I still receive comments that mock how I mispronounced the name Madara in a YouTube video that is now 2 years old. In my defense, I was a manga reader only with Naruto. I never heard the name pronounced in the anime adaptation. Despite this, I'm still suffering the consequences of mispronouncing a character's name that I only saw in text. Tip number 9. Expressing character qualities. Every name has a meaning and an origin. Websites such as Behind the Name exist to share detailed information that different names carry. This information usually includes gender, pronunciation, root meaning, history, variance, and popularity. In literature, character names are intentional. Character names often shape who your character is or will become. Other times, character names may translate into a phrase or a symbol that relates to your character in some way. Think of the main trio from Kingdom Hearts. Sora, Kairi, and Riku all translate to elemental names that connect to their predecessors. Sora translates to sky, Kairi translates to sea, and Riku translates to land. Symbolically, there are different attribute words associated with each element. These attribute and qualities can be found in each character's personality and character development throughout the series. In Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, we learned that the main trio, Ventus, Aqua, and Terra, are the ones who grant Sora, Kairi, and Riku the ability to use the Keyblade. These three have similar names to the previous trio. Ventus's name translates to wind, Aqua's name translates to water, and Terra's name translates to earth. By giving these characters names with similar meanings, a clear link is established between both trios. The traits associated with each of their names also reinforces each character's identity. Tip number 10. Name generators. Sometimes you just need to look at a list of names and pick out your favorite one. One of the most popular methods for coming up with new character names is to pretend they are your baby. Literally. Baby naming websites have been an invaluable tool for authors for many years. Oftentimes, these websites offer name meanings, trending names, and even names that were popular during different years. What's cool about these websites is how easy it is to filter and browse through thousands of different names. Some name generators I can recommend include Nameberry, Baby Name Wizard, and Baby Name Center. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. Hopefully you were able to get some value out of it. If you did, please drop this video a like. Did you know almost 70% of my viewers are not subscribed to this channel? Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. It really helps my videos get seen by more authors like you. Drop a comment down below telling us about the names you have given your characters in your story. I would love to hear how you come up with your characters' names. Remember, you can read the first 3 chapters of my published Saturday AM manga series Change the World by heading over to pilotmanga.com. On January 15th and January 16th, Saturday AM is hosting a virtual convention called Saturday Con. Different anime companies, comic publishers, influencers, and artists will be presenting there. I'll be hosting a live panel at Saturday Con along with the other members of Saturday Afternoon, so I hope to see you there. You can further support me by shooting me a follow on all of my social media accounts. Like always, they will be linked down in the description below. As always, keep creating everyone. I will see you all in the next one.